Welcome to the 1% Better Recruitment Podcast. I'm your host, Charles Kiriakou, and this is the podcast that aims to help people within the recruitment industry get 1% better after every single episode. We've had such a wide variety of different guests that come on the show that talk openly about their stories, about sharing value, tools, techniques, strategies, the good, the bad, and the ugly, all within the recruitment space. And every single episode, we like to have as much fun as possible with open conversation back and forth. It's not scripted, it's uncensored. And as I mentioned, I like to have fun doing this podcast because I know that if you're going to tune into this, you want to feel like you're part of a conversation whilst also leveling up your game within the recruitment space. So if you like this podcast, please do us all a favour. Comment, like, subscribe, follow on all the platforms. It really helps drive engagement for the show. And that's enough from me. Let's get into this week's episode, and I hope you enjoy. All right, Ivor, thank you very much for joining us on the show. Thank you very much for coming around the house. The tradition nowadays apparently is that I make someone a Greek coffee. Did you like it?
I did. It's very strong, so I'm not sure I'm going to sleep tonight. But nice way to start the afternoon.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Well, look, I'm really excited to get into this one because there's a few topics that I'm really passionate about. I know you are. Before we get into those topics, it'd be good for you to just explain a little bit about who you are, what you do, for people that may or may not know who you are.
Sure. Thanks for having me, and thanks for the Greek coffee. So I'm Ivor Stratford, co-founder of a business called Morpheus. Recruitment business. We're headquartered out of London. We set the business up March 2020, which was a pretty interesting / terrible time.
Interesting time, yeah.
to do anything.
Yeah.
Muddled through that. I'd say the last 5 and a bit years have been good, bad, fun, exciting, terrible, stressful, rewarding, everything you can think of. So it's definitely been a real roller coaster. As much as we're based in London, as of today, 100% or certainly close to 100% of our business and revenue is in the US, which provides a huge opportunity, massive market. Market, if anything, is too big. Time zone is also challenging and requires lots of travel. Before that, started my career at Citi, back post-subprime crisis, cut my teeth at a big PLC at Hydrogen, worked for 2 other firms before founding Morpheus as it is today, just over 5 years ago.
Nice. And just remind me what markets you guys are operating again?
So we support kind of early growth stage, typically venture or private equity-backed tech businesses, but with a real focus and spike around AI, machine learning. So it's obviously I've had this feedback before, maybe a bit tongue-in-cheek, where people said, really smart time to start that market. More luck than judgment. Myself and a few of the other kind of like early founding team, helped build some big RPA businesses across Europe and across the US, which sort of bled into where we are now.
Yeah.
And there's obviously lots of bigger businesses setting up AI practices or teams, companies starting up in that space. But I guess what's cool is we've got some real heritage now in a still fairly new market. And some case studies dating back to like 2020, 2021.
Yeah, nice.
So we're not jumping on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
That's me.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So in terms of topics we'll talk about today, I want to dive into your story and obviously the interesting journey of setting up any type of business in March 2020. Some people might say that's kind of insane, but when we spoke on the phone, it sounds like a really impressive and interesting journey. So we'll dive into that. We'll talk through like the lessons learned, some of the the ups, the downs, etc. that any founder will go through. Also interesting because people won't know, but we talked about this just before we recorded. But to give people a bit of a backstory to how we actually got in touch. Funnily enough, I put together a search online, you came up in my ICP, put you on a spreadsheet, tried to call you, and then when I posted on TikTok, you liked a post, and I was like, this name rings a bell, and I was like, isn't this the guy on my spreadsheet? I was like, what the hell? And then I looked at your TikTok, and it was all about sobriety and stuff, and I was like, oh, that's quite interesting. And then I saw you on LinkedIn, we connected on LinkedIn, and I was just like, not many founders utilize TikTok, so I really wanted to kind of dive into your journey with building your personal brand and doing your own videos and stuff, which, as we spoke before, a lot of people are just terrified of doing video, right? And then finally on that, the sobriety element. And I know that I said, the drinking culture in recruitment, and even just wider in the UK as well. We've got a huge drinking culture. Good, bad, don't know. We'll talk about that. But those certainly will be the topics we'll talk about. And also for people that can maybe hear any rustling in the background, my dog is in the crate right next to us. So you might see him a little bit later. Cool. Let's just talk about the journey setting your business up then. So obviously a very interesting time, March 2020, we go into a global pandemic. Tell us a little bit about kind of what made you start this business and how comes it was March 2020?
It's a good question, and if I'm honest, I've got no idea. So I'll give you the backstory in a second. Looking back, it was a mental time to do anything. We were doing Zoom quizzes on Fridays. You'd finish that. People were like, what are you up to? Just talking more generally because you weren't seeing people. Just started a new company, just hired a couple of people. And the looks I used to get were mental. Like, people thought we were insane. But at the time, it just felt like this is the right thing to do. My co-founder and I, at that point, I had a recruitment business previously. It was just myself, a kind of solopreneur, one-man band. He had, similar sized business. We merged. So we were a startup then, but without some of the limitations of a startup. We both had a significant amount of cash between the two of us, which meant we could bankroll people. It was an opportune time to make a couple of really good key hires from businesses. They were on furlough, they were being made redundant, they were told they're on furlough and they're probably not coming back, so start looking for a job. So we were able to make some bets on ourselves and on people, bring people into the company with a view, and certainly my view was, we will return to something and markets will bounce back. And if they don't, losing the money we've put into this will be the least of our worries, because it will be like martial law and pandemonium. So that was the logic. Saying that out loud makes it sound not very logical at all. It was mental, don't recommend it. And then we just kind of muddled through from there. I think one of the best things that happened, that kind of post-COVID boom, summer 2020, Q4 2020, there was free money floating around. Companies were raising money, getting investment. It was just a time where, in the market we're in, if you had a deck and you mentioned some kind of technology, you would raise money very easily. You could hire people. They would spend money with us. Great. So from, let's just say Q4 2020, 21, and to the start of 22, we could do no wrong. We were wicked. The issue was, everyone was. So it was very... what's the word I'm looking for? Flattering as a market. It made us feel very good about ourselves. Every month, revenue grew, headcount grew. Every metric you would use to measure a business, just going straight up. And then you model that out, 2022, 23. It's like, by 2030, we'll be 500 people doing 100 million a year if we carry on this trajectory. Now, I don't know what it was. 2022, a year where everyone had their best year, that's been still our worst year to date. That's something I'm quite proud of. When everyone's doing really well, and we went the opposite way. So we pivoted then, we set the business up in the wrong location. We'll talk about that in a second. Made scaling and hiring challenging. We also had a business that was fundamentally built on a handful of people winning logos, winning customers, pulling jobs, all those sorts of things, and then just dishing it out to people. Rookie hires, early career, grad hires, and we knew that wasn't sustainable. So start of 2022, we started to kind of make that pivot. And at the time, I think emotionally, I'm not sure if that's the right word, but it was really hard when everyone else in networking groups I'm a part of, WhatsApp groups, someone's just doubled revenue that quarter, or they've grown by this. We're there going, this is terrible. That said, it put us in good stead to scale beyond that. And I think what I'm trying to say is, where we were 2021, that trajectory and that growth, the business was built on sand. There were no foundations, there was no process. It was just spec a candidate, do a call, pick up a job. Everyone felt like a hero. We knew that wasn't sustainable, and pivoted off the back of it. But it was Yeah, I don't think it's something I'd recommend doing again if it happens. But like anything, no one knows what they're doing.
Yeah, I think that was such an interesting time, wasn't it? Because during the pandemic, so when we got into the pandemic, I was a sales manager. I was leading a team, 2 successful consultants, President's Club year on year. Going into the pandemic, I'm still living at home with my mum. So I never worked remote. And also I'm living at home. I don't have a workspace. So I started to just figuratively and literally lose my mind. And obviously we'll talk about the drinking aspect. I was drinking and smoking every single day and all the rest of it. So my manager, my managing director, I should say, was like, right, just go back to BD. Forget managing. You can't manage right now. You're not in the right state of mind. And during 2020, in any market, well, I say any market, in our market at least, we were doing field sales reps in medtech, right? Next to impossible. It's just depressing, I'll be honest. Every single call, people are laughing down the phone going, mate, everything's shut down. Fuck off. And then when 2021 hit, I think, it's 2021, our market didn't boom quite like tech. It wasn't like you spec a candidate out and you get a job. It was still recruitment, but companies were like, right, we can go out and sell now, so get some people. And I had a really good year that year, but I was like, fuck, I want to go and manage and I want to coach people. That's like my whole thing. I wanted to get into coaching. So the reason why I mention this, when I transitioned to L&D and I joined a tech recruitment firm, I'd never been amongst people that like recruited developers and stuff like that. It's always sales or healthcare. And I'm seeing 18 and 19-year-olds do 75k months.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck? Like, have I been like working for some like shit business or something? Like, what is going on here? And because I'm, managing the L&D department, I have to instigate what the process is. And like you were talking about, I have to be the one that's going to help the business build solid foundations.
Yeah.
And exactly like you said, it's so interesting. The whole business was built on sand.
Yeah.
And when I started to inspect people's processes, and I'm like, so basically what you're saying, Ivor, is you've spec'd out a candidate to 1,000 businesses.
Yeah.
And you've done 30k off that. And I'm like, yeah. And have you met any of these clients? No, not a point.
Why would you?
Why would you? Like, there's literally no point. So it blew my fucking mind. And then when the market shifted, and lo and behold, me and a load of people in operations got made redundant, and they scaled from like 60 heads globally down. I think they're down to like 10 now, which is mad. Obviously you've been in the tech market, right? What happened? Like, why did the market suddenly go skyrocket, and then why did it suddenly just crash? What was that all that about?
Good question. So there was a day, summer 2022. So we had a kind of embedded talent as a service solution helping a business through their pre-seed, seed, Series A, and they raised a Series B last year. So we like virtually embedded our people into their business to kind of mini RPO type model. I had a call with one of their founders, and I know him really well. He said, I've just had a really interesting meeting with our board and investors. Okay, what do you mean interesting? They mentioned this word like profitability. What does that look like? So I think one of the reasons for the boom and bust, in my view, there was so much kind of pent up cash sitting in funds. Investors wanted to deploy. As we didn't necessarily come out of pandemic, but the people started to operate in a certain way. All this cash just flushed straight out of the system. Interest rates were super low. There was just money everywhere. Yeah. That all got pushed out. Then investors, certainly in our market, will look at it and go, hang on, this isn't sustainable. We need to return the fund at some point. Yeah. We need to be looking at kind of liquidity events, IPO in 5 years, private equities, all these types of things. So I think so much money went out the door and everyone went, hang on, let's hold back. There were phrases in that kind of pandemic period that I'd never heard of before, having spent like 12, 13 years in recruitment, over-hiring. Where you talk to a client and they say, yeah, we're looking for 5 people, but we can over-hire. Like if I'm going out to buy, I don't know, 5 things, I'm buying 5 things, I'm not overbuying. I think there was, for me, it's also about psychology. It was kind of some herd mentality around, if this company's hiring loads of salespeople, we should do the same. They're hiring loads of engineers, we should do the same. And it was just a period of like grow at all costs. And then things just kind of pull back because of it. And I think now, touch wood, we have reached this kind of period of like normality where it's definitely harder than what it was in that pandemic period. But it isn't harder now than what it was in 2019.
Thank you. Can you just elaborate on that a little bit? Because if anyone's listening to this that is quite new to recruitment, because it's really interesting now because I was saying to you before we started recording, I'm doing a lot of academies now because a lot of businesses are looking to hire grads. And when I speak to people and they're like, oh, I'm quite an experienced recruiter, I'm a senior. I was like, how long have you been in the industry for? 3 years. But you're a post-COVID recruiter. Do you know what I mean? So it's like the market's somewhat, well, it's very different. Like globally, we were in a massively different place to where we were in 2019. But people often say to me as a coach and as a trainer, oh, you don't understand, Charles, like when you're in recruitment, it's so much harder now. And the one aspect where I agree with them is that the market in most markets has become way more saturated. All right, Marshall, chill out, mate. I don't know if people can hear that on the mic, but the dog's just like yawning and making all types of noises. So I do understand that perhaps in the AI market, it's not as saturated as, say, you know, your C++, Java developers and whatnot. So I get it, it's more saturated. But when I see, because I have to sit down and inspect someone's process and figure out kind of what they're doing and analyze what's working, what's not, and I'm like, mate, like, this is recruitment. Like, I think maybe you can talk more on this. I think some people that are newer to recruitment have this almost sense of entitlement where they think it should be easier.
Yeah.
Where when I got into recruitment, I was told vigorously, this is a horrible job.
Yeah.
You're going to hate this some days. You're going to want to go home. You're going to cry some days. You're going to get constantly rejected. You're going to have a day where you're going to call 100 people. You might get 5 fuck-offs and 95 people just put the phone down on you. I got like, you know, told how difficult this job is going to be. So when it actually started to work and you made and figured out a process that worked for you and stuff, it was super rewarding. Whereas I feel like some people now expect, well, if I send an e-shot, I should get some jobs.
Yeah.
That's not how it works, mate. In my opinion. Can you talk more on that?
Yeah. I think the big difference, well, it's not the big difference, it's certainly how I was schooled and how I was taught. It's you create, whether you're told this is your world, this is your target market, this is your ICP, and you live and breathe that day in, day out. And that could be 5 companies and 100 people. If you're doing things in the right way, you can build presence, you can build your own brand, your own reputation, build proper relationships. It's just, I think where people are struggling just based on how things were to how they are now, it's stark contrast. If you've only known this, and the last couple of years, it's a big change. I think the other big thing is how big people's markets are and should be, and what do you do? And we have people like this in the business. What's your market? Technology globally. Okay, wow. It's global because I'm working in Norway, I'm working in Dubai, I'm working in Germany, I'm working in the US, and that's fine where everyone is buying from you. But when that dries up and you need to build relationships, build your own brand, build reputation, understand, get in front of these people virtually and physically, it's very difficult to be in 3 or 4 countries at the same time.
Just on that, something popped into my mind. If you, for example, like you guys focus predominantly in the US, right?
Yeah.
Let's just say that I join your business and I'm focusing on the AI market and my territory is New York or East Coast, let's say. And one business, AI Limited, says, thanks for doing 3 hires in New York. We've actually opened an office in London or we've opened an office in Norway. Do you guys cover that? Now, if I was working in your business or someone in your business only focusing on East Coast, but one of their clients has said, we have a new hire in Norway or whatever, what would your recommendation be? Would you say work that job because it's an existing client, even though it's way out your territory, and long term it might not do as much for you? Or, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, that sounds like a dick. I think you kind of answered the question. It's, I think, then understanding what the long-term opportunity is one element. If you're starting on the East Coast and you have an opportunity in the UK, and if you feel that you're going to get a whole bunch more stuff from the US, then it makes kind of strategic sense to do that. We're set up in a way where we have people that may be badged up as like 360s, but in real terms, they're doing just biz development. They'll have some delivery support. So we have a small delivery function that allows us to fill, place, and deliver what we would call off-piste work that just lands in our lap, that comes.
All right, Marshall, please.
That comes inbound through whatever avenue that may be. We want to say yes to everything. That's definitely my nature. It's a typical kind of entrepreneur. There's an opportunity there to make money. Let's do it. I have to check myself regularly on that because that causes problems where we say yes to stuff that we shouldn't. So again, I'm not sure if I'm answering the question, but it's about do you have the right support and infrastructure and team behind you to say yes to it, and does it make commercial sense?
Yeah.
There is definitely, I think you alluded to it at the start, around when we're schooled back in, I don't know, whatever year it was, 2011, 2012, you put the client on the pedestal. If you get a job, like they're the most premium things you can win that week. You need to win them. You need to fill them. How many times do you go into like a store or to go and buy something? Sorry, sir, I can't help you. All the time. Like and I didn't leave that place unless they've been rude to me. But I don't leave there. I probably leave there with a better feeling than when I came in, that they've been really honest. And here's 100%. The reasons why.
100%.
So I think it's then about understanding what it is you're trying to build.
Just a quick one from me, guys. I hope you're enjoying this week's episode. But as you probably know, the way that I fund this podcast is through my coaching business. So just a little bit of information around that, because you or someone that you might know might find some value in this. But I work with recruitment agencies, recruitment businesses within a range of 1 to 100 heads that are looking to scale, grow, and ultimately want to upskill, go founder level, recruiter level, and everything in between. And I offer a wide variety of different services, from one-to-one coaching, group coaching, training academies, business development training, creating company handbooks, and I'm looking to do a lot more webinars, and I'm looking to add as much value as I possibly can. But in order for me to keep doing this podcast, I need to make a living, I need to pay my mortgage, and I can only do that through my coaching business. It's really difficult doing it by yourself, but I love doing it, and I add a lot of value to recruiters and recruitment businesses. So if that sounds like something that you'd potentially be interested in, if you're someone that's passionate about personal and professional development, my details are below with this podcast. That's enough from me. Let's get into the rest of this week's episode.
Founder, owner, whether you're 6 months into journey or anywhere in the middle, what are you trying to achieve? By saying yes to something, does it help you get closer to your goal or not? And that answers the question.
I think what you just said there, it answers it perfectly. Because if I think during 2021, when the market started to open up for me, obviously US recruitment gave us much bigger fees, and I was predominantly UK based, so I was doubling people's placements, but my fees were obviously lower, even though technically I was on 25-30%, but of 40 to 50k salaries in comparison to 100k plus, right? But I was always, similar to you, entrepreneurial. Client says, done a great job in the southeast, can you find someone in Kansas for us? I'm like, absolutely. But then what are you doing with those leads that you're getting? You know what I mean? I'm not CV stripping, I'm not following a process, and I'm just starting from scratch and doing a brand new Boolean on LinkedIn Recruiter. So like long term, it's just, and I always tell this to newer recruiters, is like, you don't want to be in a situation where you're starting from scratch every time you get a new job on. The best recruiters and some of the best people I've had on this podcast, where they're hitting that 500 to $1 million per year, it's because the minute they go to a client meeting in Mayfair, by the time they've got back to the office, they've got 3 candidates that are ready to submit, because they've already worked that job 100 times. Do you know what I mean? So, no, I agree. So talk to me a little bit about the pivot you made. So you talked a little bit about how the business was kind of built on sand. Talk us through the process of building the actual foundations and then where you've got to today.
I mean, there's still a long way to go, and we're constantly trying to iterate and improve what we're doing. To start with, we set the business up in the wrong location.
Where was that again?
Hemel Hempstead.
Oh, right, okay.
10 minutes down the road from where I live. So there was a point where it was my work from home office. So when it was just myself, I had a work from home office. So if I wasn't in London, I would drive 10 minutes there. 10 minutes so I could separate life and work, and that worked for a period of time. Made our first hire, a guy still with us, Jack, who's awesome. He was in Milton Keynes. So I turned up my 2-person box room office into a 4-person. And then we kept hiring and kept growing. And we got to about 30 people there at one point. And there was again, I can't remember the date, a few years back, interviewing people, trying to grow, trying to hire people who were based, I kid you not, like 10 to 20 minutes down the road from where we are. Like you guys, like the market you're in, everything you told me, but I think I want to be in London now. Now people are going back to the office like 1 or 2 days a week. And this would be like a drive to work, drive home from work, no social. If we, back then when we were doing social stuff, you had to plan it. There was no like impromptu, like should we just go and get like a nice lunch together? So that made it hard. So we fundamentally setting the business up in the wrong location was a big miss. But it was a mistake that we made. Won't make it again. So we pivoted. We had 2 teams, 2 practices. We took one practice. This was another mistake. Took one practice into London. That team all wanted to be there. It was more of a kind of faster pace, higher octane market in this kind of US AI venture tech world. Another team that, again, doing really well, growing, highly profitable, they wanted to stay in the office that they were in. That was another mistake because I couldn't be in two places at once. And I think the guys who were moving to new office, it was like fun and exciting and they were energized by it. Then the guys who were in this big office, they saw like 50%, they saw half their team leave overnight and they weren't there the next day. Yeah. So you then got empty desks. The whole energy changed.
It's a vibe killer in a recruitment office when there's loads
massive
of
vibe killer. And one thing that I say I have no regrets, but I would do differently next time round was I sat down with everyone. You were hired in this location. Would you do this? Like, we can come to some sort of arrangement. We'll cover your travel. Blah blah blah. Do all of those things, and they wanted to stay there. And because we hired them there, and they were doing well, we didn't necessarily want to turn them off. Yeah. That team over time, I wouldn't say it didn't die a slow and painful death, but it was a pretty dour existence for a period of time as it kind of scaled back. I was more interested in this market. I found myself going there, not necessarily energized and wanting to be there. What we should have done is, this is the best decision for the business. We're going to move. Everyone's moving. You're going to have a week's notice, 6 months. I think in real terms, it'd probably be somewhere in the middle. Here's the arrangements we're going to make. And if you don't want to do it, that's absolutely fine. But here's the decision we're making. And we should have been more firmer on that. I also think at that point, that was a period where we had people on talk salaries, 35, 40K salaries, there was a couple of instances, someone would walk over to me, can we talk? I could see their face. I knew what was coming. They'd been offered 30 to like 80% increases in salary to go to another firm. It was just mental. So it was a point where the tail was definitely wagging the dog, which is quite apt. Where we didn't want to lose people. We wanted to keep people happy. And we would, being brutally honest, just too nice. And
such a difficult balance, isn't it? It's such a difficult balance.
Yeah, and now it's about, what are we trying to build is, in really simple terms, I'm trying to build a business that I would want to work for. Like, that's really what it boils down to. Because there's over the last 5 and a bit years, there's been people that on paper have performed well. They've done good numbers, they've progressed, this, that, and the other. And it's not just necessarily myself, but other performers in the business struggle with them, the pace that they go at, what they expect. So yeah, that was a journey. And then back to the first part of your question around that pivot and being built on sand, it was 2 or 3 people who were, when we could traveling, hosting events, running dinners, in real life stuff, building up proper relationships and building their own brand within their market and helping us build our brand as our company. We're doing that, coming back and then dishing out jobs to people. People would fill them. We celebrated the people filling the jobs incredibly well, both openly in terms of celebrating success, and they were paid incredibly handsomely for the work that they were doing. That was a moment in time. I think there's also many businesses, I would say probably the majority, that have gone through that in some way, shape or form. And we didn't create that business winning, relationship building, sales led, driven, hunter type culture that in any kind of downturn or bad market will get you out of a spot. So we created people and created a culture of dependency. And it wasn't so much about trying to build better processes and better systems. You can do most of those things in an afternoon if you put your mind to it. This is what we do, this kind of works, we can make it better, done. Just because you map out and improve a process and just tell people to do it doesn't mean it's going to happen. The big change was, I think, the cultural element and why things work. And I think it's also about just being really open with people and saying, this is what's happening now. This is how much energy, effort, cash, investment goes into winning a job or sending out a CV. And here's basically what's being paid out. You're getting paid handsomely. The person winning the work is actually being underpaid. You're being overpaid. And as a company, we're looking at it and going, this doesn't work. So we're taking on all of that risk, all of that payroll, every single bill you can think of. And the people who are also hugely valuable, and we still absolutely celebrate delivery internally. It just has to be more in kilter with the role, in line with the market that we're in today. if we do see another crazy boom period in a few years' time off the back of the downturn here, which is possible and likely, and there's another rebound, I'm absolutely dead certain we will not revert to how we were before. If that means we have to turn away business, what we don't want to do is this kind of cultural shift of bouncing up and down, trying to keep people happy. It's now trying to build a business that's sustainable. And I mean, everyone we have in the business, I am a huge fan of. They've been through the ringer multiple times the last 2 or 3 years, and I think and hope have learned a lot through that. We want to hang on to them and develop them, but what we don't want to do is, again, create that culture of dependency.
Yeah, 100%. It's interesting that the focus has been around culture, and I think it's quite prominent because post-COVID, there was so many changes in respects to, like you mentioned, companies offering 30 to 80% salary increases. I mean, when I worked at Projectus, one guy who did the German market, he got offered something like 55 grand to go and do an internal recruitment job. Well, the average salary back then was like 25, 30 grand. We're only talking 5-6 years ago. It's not a long time. It was crazy. And the culture prior to COVID was just so different. And the expectations, like, no one really worked from home. We didn't have laptops. We had desktop computers.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it?
We had actual hard phones. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, we had cloud call and we had the soft phone, but like, if you wanted you could literally dial a phone and have that like that. Do you know what I mean? It's vastly different. We're only talking 5 years. So it's really interesting you mentioned about like the cultural shifts. And one thing that I picked up on was two things. I can't remember who said it. Someone said that as a leader of any type of business, you can't necessarily over communicate. It's important to almost over communicate. Like, literally tell them everything that is happening in the business, because one of the worst things, and I'm not too far removed from being an employee myself, of what the fuck is going on, what is going on, and then having a politician's answer of like, oh, due to market uncertainties, we might have to, what? Yeah. Fucking let me know, because now I'm uncertain, and the employees are all going to talk amongst themselves, and after we've had a few beers, oh, this is fucking shithouse now. So you have to communicate. And the second thing I picked up on was, and I look back at some of the best days of recruitment, was when I first got introduced to KPIs. I shit myself, because for my first 2.5 years, I didn't have KPIs. Yeah. So when I got told KPIs, I used to see on LinkedIn, Rector X say, like, this company has no KPIs, you're not going to get micromanaged. I was like, what the fuck? But then my boss sat me down and said, this is our average ratios. Yeah. This is how much a CV will pay you. And I was like, sorry, can you repeat that? Basically, every CV that you send out is worth about 200 quid. So if you send out 20 CVs a week, that'll be like 4 grand. I was like, how the fuck does that work? So then he went on the analytics software and showed me, and was just like, if your average deal is worth X, this is how much a CV is worth. So I'm not telling you to go and hit your 5 CVs in a job and 10 CVs a week for me to just give you a number to hit. Yeah. I'm saying, if this is your target and you want to buy a house, you want to get a car, and etc., these are the numbers that will essentially get you there, and here's the data to back it up. And then along with the not over communicating, but thorough communication, and then that culture element of work hard, play hard, etc., like, it was fine. We were hitting the numbers, and we knew what was expected of us. Whereas when I go into some businesses now, and I've worked with some other companies as well, where they kind of don't really explain why the KPIs are like that, and then you've got a consultant that's blanked for 3 months, and then I'm inspecting their data, and I'm like, well, they're averaging an interview a week, and they haven't pulled a job for a month, and you haven't sat down with them at all. What? And then that kind of, that mood goes across the office, and then you know what it's like, recruiters that don't get the commission end up getting a bit miserable, and then that kind of radiates across the office, and then all of a sudden you've got a real dodgy culture. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So I think those three, in my opinion, at least those 3 things are absolutely crucial.
Yeah, and I think, and then in terms of building and scaling, understanding the metrics that drive the business, and will improve it, or the opposite of improve it, what that will look like, and how we can help people do that, and understand like what's going on under the hood. Yeah. Because if not, you're just guessing. Yeah. And the other thing is we've definitely had, and probably still do have, a few people who work incredibly hard and get little to no return, or not the return that they should. We also have them people who, they still definitely work hard, but nowhere near as hard, and are getting exceptional results.
What do you kind of put that down to?
I think it's where they spend their time, and what they're doing. And it's all, make 300 phone calls a day, and people go, I did it. nothing happens.
I see this all the time.
And then you have someone else who is more, they're still doing stuff at volume, but there's also higher quality. They're having better conversations, more detailed conversations. They understand what's going on. And then one conversation, I would call it Rec 101 stuff, but now it feels very new. How you pick up something, you regurgitate that, tell this person, you're then all of a sudden talking to a CEO of one of your main customers and sharing what else you're seeing. And all of a sudden, we've got one guy in the business who has done that insanely well. And he's been very well trained. I take little to no credit for that. No credit for that. In terms of what he's able to offer in terms of value to when he's talking to other prospects, he joins a call, and there's nothing better than joining a meeting or a call where you know someone has probably said yes to it off the back of a call or a spec email or whatever it is. They've said yes to it. 2 weeks later, that meeting happens. They kind of regretted saying yes to it. They turn up a bit standoffish. They're checking their phone, and they ask a couple of questions. We had this last week. One of our guys is then talking to them, asking them some really detailed, probing questions, bouncing back, telling them what their competitors are doing, what's going on. Instantly, the buyer or the prospect on the other side of the call is just like, how do you know this stuff? And then all of a sudden, you're selling through credibility. The only reason people won't buy from you is because they don't trust you.
Yeah.
They don't trust you because why would they trust anyone that's just sent them a message on LinkedIn or cold call? So how do you build that credibility?
Yeah, I want to pick up on that because whenever I coach a new recruiter or like a recruiter that I've not worked with before that either has 5 weeks experience or 5 years experience or more, I always say that you've got to understand what challenges your clients face in your market. What are their problems? What are the implications of those problems? What do they need? What are the solutions for these problems? Your first year of recruitment is always the biggest slog besides being a billing manager. And that's a lot of information gathering and finding out what the market's like, what's going on, what the issues, what the challenges, and how do we solve those problems. And a lot of the kind of objections I get from new recruiters, well, Ivor has done it for 13 plus years. Charles, you've done it for 11 plus years. I've only done this for a few weeks. It's like, yeah, there's an element of blagging it and faking it till you make it type thing. But you can find out if you're having good conversations with people, and I'm talking not just a 50-second phone call. If you're having 10, 15-minute conversations and asking the right questions, mate, in a couple of months, you're going to know a good amount of your market. And the mindset shift I always tell people is that, because you talked a little bit about the pedestal, putting clients on a pedestal, right? I go through this thing called the selling like a pig theory, whereas cats look down on you, dogs look up to you, pigs see us as equal, right? What's the value that a recruiter can offer a candidate or a client? They're not recruiting in the market. Yes, they might be working in the AI industry and all the rest of it, but they're not recruiting in that market. So as you said, if you can go onto that call and say, oh, I've spoken to this, Fortune 500 business, and something they're really struggling with is X, a business we've started to work with, they were really struggling with this, and the implication of that problem was that, and how we've solved that problem is by implementing X, Y, and Z. Maybe none of these are any of the issues that you face, but how does that sound to you? And then 9 times out of 10, like you said, you get the client go, oh, fucking hell, you actually know about your market. And if you can add some product knowledge in there as well, which I'll put my hands up, I was the least detail-orientated type of recruiter. I would recruit for these types of jobs, and my job was to know the device that candidate would be selling. I would know 5%, but then I would just flip it as a question and get the candidate to educate me. But having a little bit of that product knowledge as well, just all of a sudden, even if you are 6 weeks into your job, you look like more of an expert.
Yeah, and I think the counter on that is also trying to lean into it. Like, hey, I'm either calling from, or whether it's kind of a prearranged Google Meet or Zoom meeting, whatever. We'll want to talk about this. Full transparency, I'm pretty new to this, but here's what I'm trying to do. Here's stuff I'm doing outside of work. Here's the customers that the business I works with. Here's the stuff we do. I would just love to hear, and a nice bit of flattery, love to hear your take on what's happening right now, what you're seeing. People like to feel special. And unless someone is a complete dick, they will give people 15 minutes and share what they're seeing if someone's approached it in the right way.
100%. And a solid rule of thumb, pretty much any market you recruit in, whether it's healthcare, AI, whatever it is, the people that you speak to in your market will most likely be pretty passionate about their market.
Yeah.
So if you ask them a few probing questions, and if I was recruiting you in your market and I know 0.001% about AI, I can barely use ChatGPT, and I ask some probing questions to someone that's an expert in their market, I'm telling you now, they're going to want to tell you about it.
Yeah.
If someone called me up right now and said, I looked at your profile and it says that you've done MMA and Thai boxing, I'd chew your ear off for about a whole day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would, because it's something I'm really passionate about.
It's all the answers are, for the most part, all the answers are in people's heads. It's just how do you get that? How do you extract that in the right way, and build relationships with people?
100%. And this is why, for me, I can't say I get flack for it, but sometimes I get founders that I'm selling to, essentially, kind of go, right, that seems awfully simplistic. And I say, well, recruitment is awfully simplistic if you think about it. It's not rocket science. You're finding a candidate for a job and a job for a candidate. And my whole philosophy around recruitment is, if you can become an expert in asking incredible questions in the correct or the best way possible, build rapport and build relationships, you're 90% there, mate.
Yeah.
If you think about every... Yeah. And you listen to the Rob Saltry's podcast, right? He talks about the give and the ask pendulum.
Yeah.
You go in and ask for some information, but you give. So what's your value? What can you offer them?
Yeah.
Whether it's a story of how you've helped a business or how the business has helped someone else or how that business has helped themselves. What's the value you can offer and what you're asking?
Yeah.
But I think questioning, in my opinion, is 90% of the job.
Maybe more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you think about a structure of a meeting or a sales call, right? I go through this with everyone, like introduction, finishes with a question. You go into the question, information gathering, needs and pain. You do a little bit of a pitch, finish with a question. You try and get flexibility, that's a question. You try and find the no or the bad news, that's a question. You're confirming everything you've spoken about,
Yeah.
That's a question. You close, that's a question. So it's probably 100%.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. And I guess the other art of it is where I can be pretty informal a lot of the time. But in those conversations, have some fun with it. So you have a kind of someone who's early in career, joins a call, and you sort of feedback, what did you learn? What do you think about? It's like, you just spoke about the most random stuff. And the conversation is all over the place. It's like, yeah, it is, but look at every point we went through that was on there. So people don't feel like they're processed. You just want everyone to leave that coffee meeting, that lunch, that video call going, I enjoyed that interaction.
Yeah.
And that person is credible and knowledgeable, and I'm not saying they trust you, us, them 100% wholeheartedly after one interaction, but more than what they did before it happened. Yeah. And then that just builds over time.
And that's just before I pivot, that's a fucking quality point you've mentioned there, because a lot of the time when I deal with very new people, or sometimes an RC that's got a couple of years experience but their process is kind of all over the place, and I go through that structure and I go through the candidate qualification and job qualification tick sheets, and the number one rebuttal I get from people is, Charles, it's too structured, it's too regimented. And I was just like, right, okay, yes, but every call starts with an intro and you should always close at the end of the call. Every other aspect is questioning, but I'm not asking you to question, like, if you're qualifying a candidate, qualify them in this specific way and then do this and then do that. No, you can mix and match. But my point is, if you miss out, like, for example, if one of your recruiters gets off a call and says, I've got a candidate in New York, they're looking for 150, and you go, okay, would they take 130? Maybe. No. Will they take 130, yes or no? Well, I don't know. Did you ask? No. We'll fucking call them back. Yeah. That's how I got taught, at least. It was pretty savage. We got always taught, always try and get them down a notch, always. And that's not a bad thing. That's a great thing, because if you get that candidate who has an expectation for 150, this is a hypothetical, by the way, but 150, and you get them down to 130, and then lo and behold, you get them an offer that's 160, the candidate's going to be so incredibly bought in. But also, if you get another opportunity that is fucking unbelievable and hits like 9 out of 10 boxes, but it's 145, and they said that, if it does tick 9 out of 10, they'd take 130.
Yeah.
But if you didn't do that, you'd be like, they would only take 150, so you don't put them forward to that job and you miss out.
I think the other thing is also then understanding, yes, you've got the comp element, and I definitely fall foul of assuming people are driven by the same things that I'm driven by.
Yep.
We had, again, really nice, an inbound opportunity yesterday in the US, and they'd made 2 offers to try to make a very big AI engineering hire across their business and their portfolio. How's it going? We made 2 hires and they both said no. Okay. Made 2 offers. Okay. Why did they say no? And they went, don't know. We were paying more than what the other offers were. Yeah. So, okay. That goes into questioning. What could have been the reasons why? So assuming cash and comp is one motivator, but all these other, just getting to know the person.
What is it actually that they're looking for? Because like you said, a lot of recruiters' motivation is money, but not every candidate's motivation is money. Yeah, it's a very important thing, but what else? And also, like, who's involved in the decision-making process on the candidate side as well, right?
I guess just to jump in on every recruiter's motivation is money, I'm not sure if that is entirely true.
No, I would agree. I would say that a large proportion of them would be.
Or to a point.
Yeah.
To a point, and then if it goes from making 150k for the last 5 years, all right, we've got a path here, we can add one more head to your team and you're going to make 170 next year.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, yeah, fine. How much time and investment are they going to put into that person to get them productive and up to speed? And he's like, it's another 20k a year. I was like, and you, again, by having a good relationship with your team, going, well, I spend 30% of what I earn, I then save some, invest some. For the extra hassle and for another like 1,500 quid a month, it's not that exciting. Okay, what is exciting then? I would like to travel more. Okay, like then you get into it. So there's all these kind of different things, but there's definitely stuff you can learn and teach people early in career. I do also think there's other stuff that people do have to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Now there's been points when back's been against the wall and we've had some challenging times and a deal's dropped because someone didn't check something, or candidates going through a house move process and they didn't think about the implications of taking a new job when they're going through a mortgage. How did you not know that? And the person's like 21 years old and they're like, I don't know about the mortgage approval process. How do you not know that? And then it becomes really unfair for like us as leaders to have a go at, shout at, not that we do that, but be pissed off with what they've done if they don't know it. So I can bet, I'd have a sizable bet, that individual will not make that again when someone says,
100%.
If you're taking someone through process, you're going to be talking to them multiple times a week, you're going to build some sort of relationship with them. How are things in your world? Yeah, pretty good. I just put an offer in on a house. Like, instant alarm bell, what can go wrong here? So you just also learn through mistakes.
Yeah, I think you have to. That you can't teach everything, and I think sometimes the failures or mistakes that you make can be a better teacher. I'll give you a really good example, an analogy, I should say. I've been back into sparring now for 15, 16 weeks, every single Saturday morning, and a lot of them are a lot less experienced than me. They're like 15, 17 years old, and because I'm so much more experienced with them, for the first few sessions, it was very much like me, just like, put your hands up, don't try and check a low kick with your hand because you're going to get head kicked. And eventually, I remember there's this one kid there called Aidan, and he's quite good. He's very athletic, a lot fitter than what I would say I am right now. And every single time I throw a low kick, I could see he puts his hand down. So I would say to him, like, as soon as the round finishes, mate, don't ever try and check a low kick with your hand, because if I just literally do a little question mark kick, you're going to get head kicked. Yeah. He says, yeah, cool. Another round with him like that. I feint a low kick. What does he do? Hand goes down. I'm like, I've told this kid weeks and weeks and weeks.
Yeah.
Fuck it, I'm going to kick him in the head.
Yeah.
Some people might be listening to this and go, fucking hell, that's brutal. It's just sparring. We're doing it lightly. We've got big leather pads on. And I just tapped him in the head. He's dazed a little bit. He's gone, oh shit. And I went, right, sit down. What happened? And he went, I don't know. It was obviously he's dazed because he's been head kicked. So I was like, how did you try and check the low kick? Yeah. I'll put my hand down. I was like, how do you do it? You lift your leg up. Do you think, okay, to be fair, he has done it a couple of times because it takes a while when we're talking about that. But he's so much better now. And now he checks the low kick correctly. So sometimes you need to figuratively, metaphorically get kicked in the head to learn.
Yeah. Metaphorically in our business.
Yeah.
Saturday mornings. Yeah, we've banned head kicking internally. That's a no-no.
Can you imagine if I run a recruitment business? That'd be hilarious. Oh dear. Let's just talk a little bit about the shift in personal brand wise.
Yeah.
So not many people I know are on TikTok, or like at least utilize it to post videos. And I kind of want to dive into a couple of the different things here, like actually utilizing TikTok yourself, and really the sobriety element as well, because I want to touch on that. But just tell us a little bit about kind of why you started posting on TikTok and building your brand, and kind of how that's been.
Okay, so this is something I'm still uncomfortable with, but I'm probably more comfortable being uncomfortable. So this came from off the back of, we sponsored and hosted a big event in New York in June called OOO, Owners, Operators and Outliers. So we had across the week with some partners and friends, like 3,500 people in venture, founders, people early in career come to different dinners and events, blah, blah, blah. All finish off with a big event on the Friday with some like insane speakers. On the Thursday was like a VIP OOO. So it was for partners, sponsors, people that have paid significantly more money than others for the ticket. And so a more kind of curated day with founders on the stage, in predominantly in tech, but a few kind of other random ones in there. The whole theme was personal brand.
Really?
I was sitting there going, this would be interesting, I guess. By the end of it, I'm sitting on my iPad scribbling notes. And I think the only thing that came out of that was start to build some personal brand in something that you want to be known for. Everyone has a personal brand. Like if you're a dick and that's genuinely your personality, people around you, that is your personal brand. Whether that's online and you have a bazillion followers or subscribers, or it's just in your local area, that's still your brand. So everyone's talking about this, and I left there having listened to like 10 hours of talks and firesides and panels and discussions, going with, if you try and focus on building some sort of personal brand, stuff will just happen, but you don't know what it is. So that was actually why I took to TikTok, because no one knew me there. And I was thinking, what can I post about that I'm kind of semi-interested in, or that's like, there's something there where people get some value from. I stopped drinking 3.5 years ago. So I thought I'd start talking about that. Being a male in 30s, in a world, location, industry that is very much, lots of weddings and parties and pub and life and everything, and certainly in industry, everything revolves, not everything, but a large chunk of stuff revolves around alcohol. I'll just take to that. And this also, after this event, OOO, a couple of weeks after, I was in New York for Tech Week. I met a content creator there, who I will send this to, a girl called Megan Million, who in a year has millions and millions of followers on Instagram and TikTok. I think has like made some insane, I'm not doing this to make money, has made some insane money. And she just started by posting 3 times a day. And she goes, just do that and just see what happens, and things will happen. I'm here today because I just post 3 times a day about going alcohol free. And that, to start with, there's like going to be videos of me, pictures of me. I got comfortable with it knowing I had it was a brand new account, completely cold, completely clean. And then we'd be hovering over the post button for what felt like 45 minutes and just go, oh, do it. And then post it. And now it's like to a point I quite enjoy it. So this is still like a test pilot. I'm doing more on LinkedIn. I'm now also just saying yes to more like, will you talk at this event? So some of the stuff I've been doing, like the TikTok stuff, is just a bit of fun and it's just getting me more comfortable with posting stuff. Then doing stuff more on LinkedIn and in work life, I've now got an opportunity. I'm flying to San Francisco on Monday to join a panel and talk about the future of AI and talent in a room full of some insane people, on a panel with 3 other founders that I think one of the smallest one has raised 30 million, one's raised 40, one's raised 50. And I'm on the panel there. So I'd have like massive imposter syndrome. I'm thinking like, what am I going to talk about? But those just come from being like, I'm going to be uncomfortable doing this for a bit, but I'll then become more comfortable. Same with public speaking. There's another girl, good friend of mine, I know through a run club that I host in London, who is like a professional speaker. When I'd done some stuff in New York in the summer, I came back and was chatting with her, showing the video. She was like, this is pretty good. I'm like, all right, I need a coach. I need a public speaking coach. I need this, I need that. And she's like, no, you don't need any of that. And I'm then starting to get a bit worked up. Well, I definitely do need this, because she's like, how have you got good at anything? I'm like, oh, that's easy. Just start and just keep doing it and get better. And she's like, the same thing applies here. Yeah. We argued a bit. I was like, no, if I just pay someone some money, I'll get better at it. She's like, just keep doing it. So now it's about just keep saying yes to stuff and keep putting yourself out there, where, as you say, it feels like everyone is some sort of creator right now. Everyone's posting and making loads of money and all these followers. In reality, it's like still sub 1% of the world. Yeah. Like it's so early. I'm also thinking about it, how can I have more of a bigger positive net impact on people that I'm trying to interact with and communicate with at scale? I can only have this conversation with you now, and just this conversation. I'm not interacting with other people. Yeah, so it's kind of been a bit of a journey going from I would never do this start of this year to maybe it's interesting hearing all these other and I had to be like bang, 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 people that have built some insane businesses off the back of personal brand. I'm doing it with a business. How can I use that to elevate it? How does it help us win customers? How does it help us hire talent? How does it help us collectively as a team and as a unit? And I guess what's cool off the back of it, we now have like most of our team are posting more stuff on LinkedIn more regularly.
That's cool.
Whereas roll back, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 years, post more regularly on LinkedIn. If I'm not doing it, looking back, how could I ever expect someone else to do it? And now some of the opportunities I've had off the back of some of these things, I know other people on the team and the company will get some of these things. But yeah, I still wouldn't say I'm comfortable doing it, but...
But that's good for the psyche there. That's good for the mindset, doing stuff. I mean, like, I've been told so many times doing this podcast that, oh my God, you're so good at this, you're a natural. And I was just like, only because like, my first podcast I set up was in 2018. And it was an audio podcast. We had no fucking clue what we were doing. And I was interviewing founders that, you know, similar to you, like raising 30 mil funding and, you know, global sales directors of like Fortune 500 businesses. Big time imposter syndrome, but got the practice, and exactly like you said, you just carry on doing it and eventually you'll get good at it.
Yeah.
Mate, when I first designed the logo for this podcast, I spent 4 hours on Canva toying around like, oh my God. And then I can't remember, someone said to me, it was like, mate, no one gives a fuck about the logo. You haven't even fucking gone live with it yet. Just post it. And I remember, similar to you, what felt like 45 minutes, just sat there like, oh, there you go, like, oh my God. And then people going, oh my God, congrats, you're doing a podcast. And I just thought in my head, the only thing that popped up is people are going to go, oh, another fucking ex-recruiter with a podcast. Another guy that's going to do a podcast to just try and win business for his new fucking venture. And I'm like, what? Where's that come from? Like, why is that? Where's that voice come from? Like, get rid. And similar to you, like, I had someone that came to me at the Recruitment Agency Expo in March. And he looks at my banner and said, why do you just do a podcast about recruitment? And I was like, because this is the industry I work in.
Yeah.
And it was just like, but surely you'd get more views if you were just like the 1% better podcast. I was like, well, maybe down the line if my business changes, but the whole purpose is that I want to help the recruitment industry get 1% better. And lo and behold, off the back of it, I'll get clients from this. And he was like, yeah, but you won't really get a lot of sponsorship deals and like you won't get ad revenue. I'm like, that's not why I set this podcast up. Most podcasts that do it from a business perspective, that think about ad revenue, they stop after 10 episodes. They stop because renting out a studio, £100 an hour, going to get someone to edit it, you know, all this type of, make the fucking work that goes into it and the kit that you got to buy. Most people just stop after a while.
Yeah.
Because their whole purpose, you know, going back to what you said about, you know, how can I make a bit more of an impact, like a positive impact on the world? My whole thing with this podcast is that I fucking love this industry. I'm very passionate about it. And it actually infuriates me that people still to this day look down at people that have the title recruiter.
Just back to your point around people stop after 10 episodes. I think that's the reason why people just don't do anything. Is they just stop. They do stuff for a week or a month, maybe 6 months, but it's unlikely. Don't see any results and then give up.
100%.
So with the whole personal brand build, which I'm still like super early, this has been June 2025, so like maybe 2.5 months. I'm doing this with no expectations for 12 months. Since then, there's already been some stuff that's happened. We've had people message me on LinkedIn that seen some stuff on TikTok that are in businesses now that are like really boozy. There's a big like drink and drug culture. They're like, "Are you hiring?" I'm like, yeah, come talk to me. So there will be. I'm optimistic, but nothing guaranteed. Other things that come off the back of it, and like you, what you're saying around, what are people going to think? What are people going to say? No one cares about you. Everyone's obsessed with their own lives. No one pays any attention. And then, that said, I'm actually prepared to save some of the head of this, like some of the comments. And I've had a few, like, I think the last couple of months I've been doing like 1 million to 1.5 million views a month, which is mental.
It's fucking very good, mate.
Blows my mind. But then some of the comments and like some of the messages before doing it, it's like your brain's your own worst enemy. And there's that fear there, which I love the acronym, like false evidence appearing real. Like if I post this and someone says something nasty, oh God, I'll be really sad. Now I've gone through that process and they've said something nasty, I'm just like, huh, who cares?
Mate, and I think I said this to you on the phone, right? This is something that Joe Rogan said, and I've been listening to him for 16, 17 years, that if someone has the time to comment negatively on one of your TikToks or one of my LinkedIn videos or my podcast, whatever, like, are they doing all right in life? Like, let's be real. Most people that are doing quite well, that are quite mentally stable, because you do have those people that are like well off and stuff and got a good business, but they're fighting demons. Like people that own specific recruitment network groups that we won't talk about, who nastily comment, they're not doing great. They might have money, but they're not doing great. If you're happy in yourself, you're doing all right, like you're not going to comment negative bullshit. And I think that's my wife that's just got in now. But so just lastly then, I want to talk a little bit about the sobriety element. Like what happened there? Like why did you want to go sober?
Big question. All right, so, and this is something, roll back start of this year, I wasn't comfortable talking with at all. I think when I went a year alcohol free, I posted on LinkedIn, and that was like my first like viral LinkedIn post. Again, because it was personal, and linked to like how it's affected and benefited me in terms of work life, business life, all that sort of stuff. Long story short, got married March 2022, like monster wedding, like looked like a fairy tale. It was a fairy tale. Business was growing, making loads of money. After that, we hadn't travelled or been on holiday properly, so we did like 3.5, 4 weeks living in an island in the Maldives. Like life could not be any better. Got home, life returned to normal, and I realised I was just like deeply, deeply unhappy with how I felt about myself, how I was treating myself, and drinking was a really easy way to like slow down brain, relax. You go into a pub, you get a beer and you drink like a third of it as quickly as possible. It's like, oh, okay, I can relax now. And I think if I wanted, everything got too much. I was unfit, unhealthy, not looking after myself, and I was just in a really bad place. And I mean, from like an alcohol standpoint, I think when people talk about going alcohol free and going sober, it's like, God, are you drinking in the mornings? What? No, no. I was like working like 12, 14, 16 hours a day, and then I'd have like a big blowout on a Thursday or Friday. Maybe as you get older, that then ruins.
At least 2 days.
Yeah, it used to be like the first hour of the day was tough, and then you get through it. And it has a knock-on impact. I'm trying to show up at work. I'm trying to show up for my wife, my friends, family, all those sorts of things, and myself. And it just got more challenging, and I just knew I couldn't go on in the way that I was. It just wasn't sustainable. And you externally, you have everything you could possibly want at this moment in time in your life, and you are just deeply, deeply unhappy. So this was, May 2022. And yeah, just like being completely honest, I don't think I would be here today if I hadn't stopped drinking.
Seriously, that bad?
Yeah.
Fuck, man.
And my wife was like hugely supportive throughout the whole thing. Started working with a therapist, coach, to unpack like why I couldn't go out and have dinner and have 2 drinks. I just do not see the point. I'm now pretty confident I could go out and have a beer and a glass of wine for dinner and there'd be no issue. But I just now see no value in that. So started, and I was then like self-medicating, using alcohol. And then, again, I say this, I was doing the same as what all of my friends do. Like there was nothing, and maybe it just wasn't for me. I didn't have a good relationship with it. Go out, big night out, in the pub from 6 till 12, ruin the next day. You know, just little things like I'll be home at 9. 9:30 rolls around. I'll be blah blah blah. It just kind of like escalates, and I just decided I don't want to live like this anymore.
maybe this was part of like getting married and going, like, I'm now setting myself up for like the rest of my life. Like, what do I want my life to look like? What life do I want to create? And I think the other things, aside from like which I've never actually spoken about as openly, but like the mental health aspect. The other thing is like, I've always been like insanely ambitious, but I'm also not necessarily where I think I could be or should be at this stage. So I want all of these things and I desire all these things. I think I'm capable of it. But then I'm like running with bricks in my shoes, uphill. I think we spoke about this on the phone. You know, making life way harder than it needed to be. It was like, maybe if I just remove this for a bit, wonder what will happen. And I stopped drinking and nothing happened for a bit. And I think that's the other thing that people do. We sort of touched on it earlier. People go, I stopped drinking for 2 weeks and nothing happened.
How long was it that period lasted?
I think the first month was interesting, novel, exciting, terrifying, because everything was new. Like, not having a hangover for a month was epic. Like, you had so much time back, so much more energy. Then you get faced with the first sober wedding you're going to do. I mean, that was a year. We got married. This was also after COVID, right? So I think we had like 9 or 11 weddings that year in different parts of the country. And it's not just a local wedding like things used to be 10 years ago. You turn up for 6 hours and go home. It would be like a whole weekend affair. And going to that, like driving down the driveway, wherever you're going, I vividly remember the feeling of like, what can I mean, describe like stress and like anxiousness going, how am I going to get through this without drinking? And then just like playing it through again, working with this guy, not just about alcohol, but just about everything. How to get more comfortable feeling uncomfortable. And what you realise within the first 30 minutes, no one cares what you're doing.
Yeah, no one gives a fuck. Same thing in the gym, right? Like my missus is just like, people are looking at me. What if I'm lifting incorrectly? No one gives a fuck.
No, and
no one's looking.
That said, the only people that are looking and pay any attention to that are ones with admiration, that are inspired by it, motivated by it, or have done the same thing. So now, at the point of stopping drinking, I also started running, and that's kind of now taken over my life in a whole different way. If I see someone out, and this is probably not a particularly kind of popular viewpoint, if I see someone who's out running, who is quite clearly very unfit and overweight, and they are running incredibly slowly on a wet Sunday morning, the amount of respect I have for them compared to someone that's running a sub 2.5 hour marathon, like worlds apart. Like, they are putting in effort, they're doing something they do not want to do. I've been there. Anyone that judges someone, it's the kind of person that, this is the image I have in my head, the 50-plus-year-old British lager lout bloke sitting on the sofa criticising people on TV, what they're doing, how they're performing in sport. It's like, you've achieved literally nothing in your life, but you're very happy to sit there and they're the only people that will criticise. And I feel sorry for them.
I agree.
So yeah, the alcohol-free thing, getting to a year was like a real like highlight. But we would, as a business, we wouldn't be where we are now. I wouldn't be able to do the travel I'm doing, the hours I'm doing, whilst maintaining, I hope my wife agrees, like a healthy home life and marriage and all that sort of stuff. I just wouldn't be able to do it. And not operate at the level. Like, is building a company hard? Yeah, it's really hard. It's terrible. I do not recommend it. The hours, the travel. I was in San Francisco 2 weeks ago, then New York. I'm back for a few days. I go to San Francisco next week. This really takes its toll. But again, it's what now frustrates me with people, and probably frustrating me myself. I want to do these things, but I'm not behaving or acting in a way to do these things. It's the best thing I've ever done.
Mate, that's inspiring stuff, man. I always used to say when I was younger, and looking back, it sounds like a real dick thing to say, that if you're going to come out of us and you're not going to drink, I'm not going to say a damn thing. But if you're going to sit in the corner and you're not going to involve yourself in any chat, go and grab a beer. And I know that sounds fucking toxic as hell these days, but this is when I'm like in my early 20s, because I used to hang around with some people that just didn't enjoy being drunk or just didn't want to get drunk. And in fairness, our friendship group has never been that laddie, getting up to no good. We just talk a bunch of shit, have a bit of banter, and just play some pool, whatever. But now I'm 31, my hangover is just so fucking savage, and I've not really I think I've had like a beer, like a glass of wine in the last 3 months, because the last like month and a bit of my wife being pregnant, just wasn't really drinking, wasn't really doing anything. And since the baby's been born, I've had like a glass of wine with dinner. I've had a lager shandy, a barbecue. Do you know what I mean? And we've got a party coming up, and I was just thinking in my head, just like what you were saying, almost like a weird thing of anxiety of just like, I just don't know if I can be arsed. Like, I don't know whether I'm just, now I've got a kid and I'm just at that stage of my life, like whether I'm kind of done with it. But I'm kind of different to you in the respect that I kind of can have a beer, but if I'm at someone's like 32nd birthday party and it's like a gathering with like 10 of us, can I do that sober? I don't know, because I don't enjoy those situations unless I'm drunk. Do you know what I mean? It's weird.
Well, there is that. I now at a point where I probably go out more, I socialise more, I can turn up till 10 o'clock, maybe 10:30, get in the car, drive home, and be up the next day. It took some time to be able to put myself in those environments and do it sober and enjoy it. You'll definitely shed people, was a phrase I stole from someone the other day, who, looking back, I'd spend every Friday night with, or be going out getting drunk with. And now, like,